remain captive until you fall in love with me.
This poor woman has no idea how she got here. When she opened her eyes, she found herself in an empty white room. Even if she screamed, no one would hear her. She feels scared and tries to stand up, but she can't. She sees that her legs are hurt and wrapped in bandages. As the woman looks around, a creepy man's voice says that she has slept too long. The man says his name is Thomas Alcroft, and he is the person who took her. He tells the woman that he plans to keep her as a prisoner until she loves him. He also shares her name, Ruby Watts, and other details about her life, like where she grew up and where she went to college. He mentions what her parents do for a living and that he knows she is scared of the dark. Ruby doesn't remember how she got to be with Thomas or what her life was like before she was kidnapped. She is crying and asks Thomas what he did to her, pointing to her hurt knees. Thomas tells her he cut her ligaments and advises her to stay still if she wants to walk again. He tells her that he didn't touch her personal things, which are in a black bag on a chair by the door. On the floor next to Ruby, there looks like a meal and a small cup with 2 pills in it. Thomas says he gave her 1 pill to prevent pregnancy and 1 to relieve pain. He then tells Ruby what their life together will be like. He will give her food every day, and he will help her with washing and using the bathroom. She will wake up at 7 in the morning and go to bed at 11 at night. It will be very hard to leave because they are far from the nearest home. After Thomas is done, Ruby asks him if he hurt her, and he says he didn't. Thomas leaves, and now Ruby is alone in the room. Ruby notices her bracelet that has the words Ruby X on it. The next day, Ruby is still in the same place as yesterday. The empty plate shows she ate the food Thomas made for her, but she didn't take the pills. Thomas walks into the room to see how she is and lets out a disappointed sigh when he sees that Ruby refused to take the pills. He asks her to take her medicine because her pain will only get worse, but Ruby doesn't listen to him. As he walks out of the room, Ruby asks Thomas why he is doing this, but he doesn't answer. Thomas leaves the room, and when the door shuts loudly, the scene goes dark. We can hear Ruby crying out in distress from the other side. Later that day, Thomas goes to see Ruby again. This time, the room is lit with a dark red light, showing that it's nighttime. Thomas gently moves Ruby's sleeping body, so she is curled up on the floor and then leaves the room. The next morning, Thomas brings breakfast to Ruby. She is still fast asleep, but he is awake when he knocks on the wall. After he leaves, Ruby's tired and confused expression changes to a serious one, showing that her sleepy look was just an act. She scoots over to her handbag on the other side of the room. She opens it and searches through it until she finds her mirror, which has her ID in it. Ruby looks at it, confused. After she saw a shadow through a small window, she quickly packed her things back into her bag. However, a small ball rolled away. Ruby moved back to her usual place and saw the ball. She grabs it and hides it in her pocket just before Thomas comes into the room. Thomas brings her some food and looks at her face. He sees that she is in pain and tells her she should have let him know. He puts his hand in his pocket and takes out a bottle of pills. He asks Ruby to take a bigger dose, and she agrees. He gives her the pills by hand and then leaves. Later, we see what looks like a woman floating in dark water. It turned out to be just a part of Ruby's dream. She wakes up feeling upset and tries to get up, but then she feels a sharp pain in her legs and stops. Thomas is in the room, sitting in a chair near Ruby. Ruby asks him who he is and what he has done to her. Thomas calmly replies just like he did the first time they met. He says his name is Thomas Alcroft and that he plans to keep her trapped until she loves him. He keeps saying the same things he knows about her. Ruby wants to know what happened to her legs. Thomas tells her that he had to do it to stop her from running away and that her legs will heal over time. He tells her that all she has to do is follow the rules and take her medicine. He tells her that he doesn't have any bad intentions by giving her birth control pills. Ruby remembers her daily routine and how unlikely it is for her to find a way out. She doesn't say anything until Thomas starts to leave the room. She asks him again if he hurt her. This makes Thomas angry, and he throws her bag as he leaves the room. When Ruby is by herself, she looks at the ball she kept in her pocket. She examines her bracelet more carefully. Later, we see what else happens in Ruby's day. Thomas is doing physical therapy with Ruby. He's using washcloths to help her, and Ruby keeps hitting the ball against the door when it gets dark outside. The next day, Ruby sees the cut on the back of her head. She takes a mirror out of her bag, but she can't really see her injury well. She ends up breaking the mirror into smaller pieces and looks more closely at her injury. Before she could see anything, she saw Thomas watching her from the other side of the door. She hid the glass piece under the bandage on her left knee and tried to return to her usual spot. Before she can, Thomas comes into the room and gives her medicine that makes her sleepy. At night, Thomas plays a sound to keep Ruby from moving or trying to escape. Then he cleans and organizes the room before falling asleep in a chair. His phone alarm gets him up. He turns off the negative noise, sits Ruby up, and goes away. We then see many days where Thomas and Ruby are together. Thomas brings Ruby food and helps her clean herself, while Ruby spends most of her nights playing with her ball. One morning, Ruby is playing with the pipes under the sink. The mess she made doesn't seem to bother Thomas when he comes in with her breakfast. As he looks around at what she did, Ruby asks if she can ask him something. She asks him what will happen if she doesn't love him, and if she'll be stuck forever if that happens. Then she makes a joke about what Thomas did to her legs. Thomas asks her what he can do for her, and this confuses Ruby. Thomas says she seems to be feeling better because she's even making jokes about what she's going through. Thomas says she might be getting bored and offers to bring her something to make her stay easier. Ruby thinks for a moment and asks Thomas to bring her a pillow, a blanket, and a book to help her pass the time. Thomas agrees and then asks her about the two pencil drawings on the wall, one of a chair and the other of a brain. She says they look nice. Thomas agrees and tells her she looks even better. Then he asks her to say again what she wanted him to bring her, and she does. The next day, Ruby is lying on a mattress with a pillow next to her. Thomas comes in and hands her a book. After looking through it, she says she has read it before. Ruby feels very stressed because that book is the only thing she remembers from before she was trapped. Thomas tells Ruby that she might remember some things again if something reminds her of them, which makes her feel a little hopeful. Thomas says he will help her remember things, and she is thankful to him. Later, when Thomas brings food to Ruby, he asks her if she wants anything. She asks for a red bush tea, and he quickly gets it for her. When Ruby smells it, she remembers something. She smiles and asks Thomas if he knew she would choose this particular tea. He smiles and says it's the only drink she likes. Ruby asks him how he knows so much about her, and he answers that he looked it up. Later in the day, Ruby is looking at her book. She trips over a page that has strange letters on it. When she holds up a mirror piece she found earlier to the letters, she sees some of them form the words, "Don't trust him." Just then, Thomas walks into the room with a table. Turns out Thomas wanted them to eat dinner together, and they do. Thomas asks Ruby about the book, and Ruby says it's great, especially the ending. Thomas smiles and tries to hold Ruby's hand, but Ruby pulls away. Thomas asks Ruby what's the problem. At first, Ruby is unsure, but she asks Thomas how many other people were held prisoner before her. Thomas says she's wrong, but Ruby is determined to find out the truth. She goes on to say that Thomas is following, controlling, hurting, and killing young women like her. Before she can continue, Thomas hits his fist on the table, surprising her. He cleans the blood off his arm and again says that her claims are not true. Ruby says she doesn't want Thomas to have done this to anyone else before because she thinks what they have is unique. Thomas insists there's nobody else and walks out of the room. As soon as he leaves, Ruby's scared look goes away, showing the audience that she was just acting. The next day, Thomas tells Ruby that her legs are getting better, but they still need more time to heal. When he goes away, Ruby takes off the bandages from her legs and checks her hurt. It looks like there are no cuts on her legs. She manages to stand up and walks to the door. When she touches the doorknob, she remembers a time with a man and Ruby at her front door. Ruby stops trying to open the door and goes back to her bed. While she is reading a hard-to-understand message in her book, she accidentally smudges the ink that the message is written in. When she smells the ink on her hand, she remembers hiding something behind a brick in the room. Ruby takes out the brick, and a bunch of matches falls out, showing that the unclear messages were written with the matches. Later, Thomas and Ruby are eating dinner. Ruby asks for a candle to create a romantic atmosphere. Once Thomas gives it to her and lights it with a match. He suggests that they should begin again, and Ruby says yes. Ruby tells Thomas about a dream she keeps having where she is going underwater. As she shares the details, her hand moves closer to the match. She shares her dreams with Thomas, and when someone stretches out their hand to help her. At the end of her story, Ruby's hand is near the match, but Thomas is holding her hand. She pretends to cough and brings her hand to her chest, secretly grabbing the match without Thomas seeing. In the next part, we see what Ruby's days are like. She's writing in her book, moving her legs around, and trying to learn how to use a piece of her broken mirror as a weapon. While Thomas is helping her learn to walk again, she pretends her leg is not feeling well. The next morning, Ruby is doing push-ups. She quickly runs to her bed when she hears Thomas coming to her room. To not raise any eyebrows, she acts like she is reading her book. Thomas thinks he should help her exercise her legs before dinner, and she agrees. While he's helping Ruby walk, she pretends that her legs are hurt again. Once they reach the other side of the room, Thomas praises her for her improvement and says that if they keep going like this, they might have dinner upstairs. In the evening, Thomas and Ruby are eating dinner again. Thomas says this meal is very special and encourages Ruby to try it. After Ruby takes a bite, she remembers having dinner at a restaurant with Thomas. They look like they're on a date and feel at ease with each other. Thomas asks Ruby to close her eyes and then puts on a necklace he got for her. He gives her a kiss on the forehead. We go back to now. Ruby is surprised and asks Thomas if they were together before. Thomas nods and tells Ruby that the meal she clearly remembers was their anniversary dinner. Ruby smiles at him with tears in her eyes. Later, at night, Ruby is shown brushing her teeth. While she looked at the two pictures Thomas hung on the walls, she saw R.A.W. written in one corner of the drawing. In the morning, Ruby looks out a small window from her room and sees someone in a boat with Thomas about her book. Thomas said that Ruby was always with her book and couldn't be apart from it. He begins to think about the good times they had together. As he shares his story, the scene changes to Ruby drawing with lots of crayon pictures around her. Thomas is fast asleep on her bed. Once Ruby was sure he was asleep, she quietly headed to the door. Before she could open it, Thomas reminded her that it was cold outside and suggested she should grab a coat. Instead of opening the door, she bends down to grab her ball while Thomas wakes up slowly. The scene finishes with Ruby saying she can't fall asleep. The next day, Thomas dances with Ruby, and it brings back another memory. Ruby and Thomas are dancing together at a party. Thomas tells Ruby that he loves her, and she says she loves him too. Then they kiss. After remembering, Ruby tells Thomas that she now really believes they were together. Later, Thomas shows how the remote control works for all the electronics in the room. He plays some music, and Ruby begins to dance for him. They laugh and kiss, but before they get closer, Ruby starts to cry. Ruby asks him how they ended up here, and Thomas says he will tell her. As Thomas tells the story, the scene goes back to the past. Ruby is at a bar waiting for Thomas. She is with her roommate Nick, who is flirting with her. Thomas doesn't make it to see her because he missed the train, so Ruby and Nick go home. Thomas sends Ruby a message saying that his friend Rob is coming to get him, and he hopes to see her soon. At the same time, Nick tries to kiss Ruby, but she says no. He doesn't give up and ends up hurting her badly. After seeing what happened at Ruby's house, Thomas killed the still drunk Nick and took Ruby to Rob's car. Rob didn't want to, but he drove them both to Thomas's house. There, Ruby woke up. It turns out that Ruby forgot things because of what happened with Nick. Before Rob can call for help, Thomas stops him. They argue for a little while, but Rob agrees to help Thomas with his plan to help Ruby remember. They go far north, where Thomas says goodbye to Rob and thanks him for his help. Thomas takes Ruby to an old, empty farm on an island and keeps her there against her will. As time goes on, Thomas learns about retrograde amnesia, which is when someone forgets everything that happened before a certain event. He also discovers that Ruby's memory seemed to go back to how it was right after the event whenever she slept a lot. Thomas shows Ruby pictures to help her remember, but at first, she doesn't react. To help Ruby remember better, Thomas figured out how to bring back some of her memories and change her sleeping habits so she could learn for longer. When he gives her favorite book, Ruby reacts well and starts to improve. Thomas is still trying hard, but he thinks he needs a fresh start to really win back Ruby's trust and help her remember. So, he created a white room and made up a story about hurting Ruby's legs and being her kidnapper. After Thomas tells his story, Ruby starts to cry and appears to remember things. They get close to each other and fall asleep together. Ruby wakes up first and turns off Thomas's alarm clock before it rings. She picks up a broken piece of the mirror and stabs him. She then starts crawling away to escape, but Thomas tries to grab her. She uses her feet to push and escapes outside. She looks up at the sky with tears in her eyes, then runs to the boat but faints before she can get away. When she wakes up, she is in a hospital room, and a doctor tells her she will be okay but might forget some things for a little while because of her injury. The doctor turns out to be Thomas, who set up another situation to try to win Ruby's trust and help her remember. The movie ends here. Please, my family, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.